Every Scrum Master thinks they're helping their team. Most of them are getting in the way. Not because they're incompetent, because they never learned the difference between facilitating a team and leading one. Those are not the same thing. And the gap between them is costing your team more than you realize. I once watched a Scrum Master hug the mic. Talented, prepared, very well intentioned, but completely unaware of what they were doing to the room. Because from where they sat, it worked. The meetings ran. Stakeholders were happy. But the team had quietly made a decision. We don't need to think in here. They stopped offering ideas nobody asked for. They stopped questioning assumptions. They stopped trusting their own read of the situation. Because each time they tried, the Scrum Master was there already summarizing, already moving on. The Scrum Master didn't take the team's voice. They just never left room for it. And eventually, the team stopped trying to find room. And the dangerous part is it looks fine from the outside. The meetings still run, the ceremonies still happen, nothing looks broken. So the Scrum Master never gets the feedback that something is wrong. But underneath, there is slow erosion. The team stops functioning without them. Not just in meetings, in how they think about problems, in how they approach each other. The camaraderie that comes from a team actually working through tough stuff together, that requires friction. It requires people to disagree and then figure it out, ultimately landing somewhere collectively. When the Scrum Master removes that friction, they remove the very thing that builds the team. And here's what I want you to sit with. The Scrum Master I watched, they thought they were doing a great job. They had no idea they were leaving their team less capable than they found it. So nobody measured this. Nobody even noticed until they were gone. So now ask yourself, would your team say the same thing about you? Early in my career, I noticed something in my estimation sessions. Whenever a senior person spoke first, the room followed. The idea didn't matter. The title did. The less experienced people didn't want to contradict someone with more tenure. So they adjusted, they did the natural thing, they deferred, they went quiet. And the first opinion became the only opinion. That is decision anchoring. The first idea spoken in a room sets the frame. Everything after it gets measured against that idea. And most Scrum Masters never think about the speaking order in a session. I started doing something simple. Before every estimation session, before retros, I would pull the senior folks into a sidebar conversation. And I'll ask them, guys, hold your perspective until the junior folks have spoken. Their opinion mattered. The sequence mattered more. And the moment I changed the sequence, the room changed. People who never spoke started speaking. Estimates that were always rubber stamped, they started being challenged. Ideas that would have died in someone's head began to make their way into the room. I didn't facilitate that. I led it before anyone sat down. So how do you know what hat you're wearing in the moment? Facilitating or leading? The three questions I want you to carry into every session. First, is the team doing the thinking or Am I? If you're the one generating the ideas, summarizing the conclusions, and filling the silence, you're not facilitating, you're performing. Second, who hasn't spoken yet and why? If you look around the room and the same people are carrying every conversation while everyone else watches, that is your signal. And you're the only one positioned to do something about it. Third, am I holding this meeting together or am I holding it back? This is the hardest one because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in a room is nothing. Let the silence sit. Let the team feel the weight of the problem. Let them find their way to the answer. That is not being passive. That is leadership. The Scrum Master who hugged the mic, the one who I spoke about earlier, they never asked these questions. They cared about the meeting. They just never looked up from it. Facilitation is the right move when the team has the answer and needs space to find it. Leadership is the right move when the team is stuck, deferring, or maybe they're missing something they can't see. The skill is reading which moment you're in. Most Scrum Masters default to facilitation because it's safer. Nobody criticizes a clean meeting, but nobody remembers one either. So let me show you what both moments look like in practice. The team is working through a problem, ideas are flowing, people are building on each other. That is a facilitation moment. Disappear. Don't summarize, don't redirect. Don't add your perspective. Hold the space and let them do the work. Now, the other moment, two people are making every decision while the rest of the room just waits to be told what was decided. Someone with more tenure just anchored the conversation and nobody's pushing back. That is a leadership moment. That is when you move, not to facilitate, to interrupt the pattern. Ask the people who haven't spoken. Name what you're seeing. Change the sequence before it calcifies. The difference between a Scrum Master and a strategic operator is knowing which moment you're in and having the courage to respond to it. In episode 1, I asked you what you are going to do with what you're already holding. This is part of the answer. The seat you have between product, engineering, delivery, and leadership, it doesn't need a better facilitator. It needs someone who can read the room and respond to what the moment actually needs. The agenda won't tell you that. The ceremony wouldn't either. That Scrum Master, the one who hugged the mic, they had the same seat you have, same access, same information, same room. They just never looked up from the meeting agenda long enough to see what was happening in front of them. Not skill, attention. The most valuable thing you can bring into any room isn't a framework. It's the ability to see and read what is happening and respond to it deliberately. Sometimes that means stepping back. Other times it means interrupting the pattern. But it always means making a decision. Facilitation is a default. Leadership is a decision. Start deciding. Most Scrum Masters who watch this episode will go right back to their next session and do exactly what they've always done. Not because they don't care, because awareness without a diagnostic doesn't change behavior. It just makes you more aware of the behavior you're not changing. The strategic operator brief exists for that gap. 8 pages that forces you to look at how you are operating today. Not how you intend to, how you actually are operating today. If you're hugging the mic, it will show you. If you're anchoring decisions without realizing it, it will show you. And it will show you what to do differently before your next session. Not eventually, before your next session. The link is in the description. You need this before you walk into another room.